Am I the asshole for saying it's my grandparents' fault I don't embrace my culture? Edit. Wow. I just got back to this and wow. Thank you so much for the support. At first, I wanted to make my grandparents' and dad's holiday miserable as payback. But now that I look back on it, life is too short to spend holidays with people you don't love. My mom got me a ticket back, I leave next week. A lot of people have been urging me to take a DNA test because it's impossible for me to have blue eyes. First of all, it's common for mixed kids to pass as white. I look like my German mother who has blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm 100% sure I'm my dad's daughter. A DNA test is the first thing they did. They did not want me at all. If I wasn't my dad's daughter I would have been out. I, 16 female, am half Korean and half German. However, I am white passing. I don't look Asian at all. I look 100% Caucasian. My mom was an addict. She and dad divorced when I was 2. Mom left for Germany and left me with dad. I am my family's greatest shame. My father is the firstborn son. His marriage to my mom was his rebellious stage, and while he could pretend he never married her, he couldn't pretend I don't exist. I am a reminder of his failure. He quickly married a nice Korean woman and they had my siblings, 12 female, 12 male, 9 male, 7 male. Growing up we lived with my grandparents. They blamed all my bad behavior on my white side. I always heard things like, "We can't expect the white kid to behave. Rude just like Westerners," etc. If my siblings did something bad and I was blamed as I was influencing them with my Western values, and leading the nice Koreans astray. When Chuseok happened, Korean holiday, I was never allowed to participate and was told to stay in my room. For most of my life, I tried to be as Korean as possible. I dyed my natural blonde hair brown, wore brown contact lenses to cover my blue eyes, etc. It didn't help that we lived in the rural area of South Korea and I was the only white kid for miles. The bullying was relentless. My dad did nothing to help me. One time he tried to stand up for me. My grandparent said, "This, referring to me, is your fault. If you had married a nice girl we wouldn't be dealing with this," pointing at me. That was the first and last time he tried to stand up for me. When I was 15 my mom came to get me. She had gotten her life together and was clean. They couldn't hand me to her fast enough. The good thing is I love my life in Germany. I love the culture and the people. I feel more at home in Germany than I ever did in Korea. I finally embraced my German side and stopped trying to be Korean. Recently my 12 female sister died. I can't say I'm sad about it, as all my siblings participated in my mistreatment so I never had a bond with them. Since she was the only girl and my stepmom can't have more kids, my grandparents and dad have been trying to reach out to me. They convinced my mom to send me there to visit for the holidays. When I arrived they were shocked to see me with blonde hair, blue eyes, piercings, etc. I also refused to speak Korean, speaking only English or German. This morning my grandparents said how sad they are to see me turn my back on my culture. I exploded at them, cussing them out. I told them if they hadn't bullied me my whole life maybe I would be closer to my Korean culture. I said they don't get a do-over because my sister died. I said a lot of nasty things to my dad as well. My grandparents started crying, and my dad had tears in his eyes. Which shocked me because I have never seen them so sad. I feel kinda bad. Not the asshole, you hit the nail on the head. They don't get to abuse you and exclude you from Korean culture for years and suddenly use you as a backup granddaughter now. I feel like because they seemed genuinely remorseful. The first night home they came to me and apologized for everything. I could tell they felt bad. But at the same time too little too late. Not the asshole. Them being remorseful doesn't mean you can't be angry or that you have to forgive them. Being sorry for one day doesn't fix a lifetime of mistreatment. If they're really sorry, they can confront the hurt and anger they caused you. It's not your responsibility to hide it from them. Not the asshole. They can't exclude you the majority of your life from part of your culture and then decide you can be included because they now need a daughter in the family. They just want a replacement for what was lost. Not the asshole. Your behavior wasn't ideal here. But they treated you as disposable until their preferred child died. Now they're treating you as viable backup option. Though if you're fully fluent in Korean, don't stop practicing that. Being multilingual is almost always going to be an advantage and opens up career options. Not the asshole. My great-grandmother was Dutch and married a Korean man. Their kids and the generation next, and next, were raised with the culture without any of the racist bullshit you had to tolerate. A child's death is horrible. I'm sorry for that. But it shouldn't have taken something so awful to shake some sense into your family. Even if they're truly repentant and want a relationship with you, you're under no obligation to accept. And as an ethnic Korean, I promise you, that 100% ethnic Koreans are just as disappointing to their parents. Your folks are just racist pricks who ruined a good thing for you. Not the asshole. As a second-gen Korean American, I can say plenty Koreans can be some of the most overtly racist motherfuckers on the planet, especially when it comes to family. They can be civil and kind, but unless you fit the homogenic mold, pure Korean and Korean-speaking, you'll always be other. Don't feel bad. They are probably crying because they feel guilty because you are right. They didn't allow you to participate in the culture. They turned their backs on you and repeatedly bullied you and pushed on you that you didn't belong. They made it very clear they considered you a mistake, a bad influence, something that never should have happened. And now you are supposed to embrace a culture and a family that made you feel like your life was a mistake? Let them cry. They should cry. They should be ashamed. Mortified even, that they treated you that way, and now they are dealing with the consequences of their own actions. Not the asshole. But wow. Your so-called family sure is. Not the asshole, you are the product of their raising you. If they wanted you to be a loving daughter, then they needed to love you while you grew up. I can bet they are expecting you to take care of your dad when he is old. Lol, very much doubt that will happen. When you want them in your life, you can seek them out, they get no say in that matter. Am I the asshole for attempting to get a family with kids evicted? I recently moved in an apartment complex and next to me lives a family of 4, the parents with their 2 kids. The kids seem to be young. One is clearly a baby and the older one possibly under the age of 3. The family also apparently owns their own apartment and they don't rent. Their kids play a lot all day long, thankfully not during quiet hours. Quiet hours are 10 p.m. till 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. till 5 p.m. But they're very loud, especially the oldest one. But the baby, I think the baby is barely 1, cries a lot too. I don't know how they manage to keep them quiet during quiet hours, but the rest of the day it's a nightmare. I tried to leave a note on their doors to keep the kids from playing multiple times and asked them to do it out of respect for the neighbors. The mom knocked on my door and apologized for the noise but said that they're kids and it's normal for them to play and be loud, and as long as they're quiet during quiet hours she shouldn't be expected to tie them down on a bed to keep them quiet all day long. I insisted it's disrespectful, but she said that if I have a problem with kids making noise I should rent a parent on a complex that does not allow children, and that there are many complexes like that in our area. She also suggested me some. I thought it was ridiculous of me to be the one to be told to move out instead of them trying to be more respectful. I contacted my landlord and asked if I can do something to evict the family. He said that's not possible since they comply by the complex rules and they also own their house and that legally there's nothing I can do. I was complaining about that to my sister and I told her what my landlord and the mom of the apartment next door told to me, but she apparently agrees with them and says I'm the asshole for attempting to have a family evicted when they did nothing wrong to break the rules. You are the asshole. Kids are loud. People are loud. They're not breaking any rules, and if you need silence, go buy yourself a single-family house in a rural area. Trying to evict a family for your own personal comfort is a massively asshole thing to do. You are the asshole not only for attempting to get a family who owns their home evicted during a housing crisis, but definitely as they've broken no rules. You also have some seriously unrealistic, entitled ideas about apartment life. Renters get evicted, not owners, by the way. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. Babies cry. 2-year-olds make noise. Facts of life. As your landlord pointed out, they are observing the rules. Either move to one of the complexes your neighbor suggested or buy some noise-canceling headphones and listen to some music. Or, if you prefer silence, foam rubber earplugs work well. You are the asshole. Holy fuck, how did you even feel the need to ask this? As you said, they keep it down during quiet hours, so they aren't doing anything wrong. Kids make noise. If you don't want to deal with that, move to a place with no kids. Don't try to get a family with a baby put out on the streets. You are the asshole. What would you have them evicted them over in the first place if no rules are being violated? And how do you evict someone who owns property? You are the asshole 100%. What the hell did I just read? Trying to get a family with young kids evicted over nothing? They literally did nothing wrong. If you can't handle the noise, then you should listen to your neighbor and move somewhere quiet. The level of entitlement is astounding. I have sensory issues, due to ADHD, and I avoid small humans in my social life as much as possible, because I know they're kids, they're loud, and they're supposed to be loud. I understand that you're annoyed, but you have choices. 1. Invest in some good soundproofing, if the flat is yours. 2. Move to a place without small humans. Wanting to throw out a family because you have an issue makes you an asshole. An entitled asshole, whose needs supersede all others. I have news for you. Love. The world does not revolve around you. Grow up. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my son have 2 last names? Hey guys. So, a bit of context. I, M32, have been with my wife, F30, for 3 years. She comes from a country where women get to keep their maiden name after marriage, which was fine with me, though as someone who comes from the South my family pushed for my wife to take my last name, but she ended up keeping hers, which made my family somewhat unhappy, saying it was disrespectful of her to keep her maiden name, but thankfully they got over it and things got better and we reconciled later. Now this last name issue has been brought up again when my wife and I found out we were expecting a baby boy. I sat with my wife down and told her that my son is going to get my last name and explained so that there's no confusion, but she disagreed and said no and came up with a compromise, which was that our son gets both our last names, but I declined explaining how awkward and confusing and just complicated that would be. Not to mention the middle name, so that would be a long name, but she said I should consider since my last name will still be there, but I said no and told her we'll just have to go with what most families here do and is going by the father's last name. She threw a fit, calling me selfish and accused me of treating her as if she as a mother gets less or no say, but I reminded her that she got to keep her maiden name and so we're even. She then argued that I was mixing 2 things that are unrelated and was holding the fact she got to keep her maiden over her head, though it was her right to do that same with deciding what surname our son will have. I said I was sorry, but I cannot accept this compromise, especially with how my family will react, and told her she should just go with the flow and agree on my son having my last name. She got upset and refused to talk to me after that, calling me selfish and a dictator and a minion for my family, even though I'm just looking out for our son's best interest and keeping them in mind. I just think she's being deliberately stubborn here. But I'm not sure. AITA? Edit Jesus. Whoa guys. There's just way too many responses here, man, and I won't be able to respond to all of them, but I've got a couple of things to say and I'm adding them here for everyone to see. 1. Just to be perfectly clear here, I did not have an issue with my wife keeping her last name. In fact, I encouraged her to stick to it after my family started giving us grief about it. And 2. The main reason I was initially against using both names is the fact that our son might end up having a very long name as a full name. That's it. I have nothing against my wife's last name. I respect it. I respect her family, they seem sane and level-headed, and I appreciate them a lot. But as 2 blended families with 2 different backgrounds, we tend to disagree sometimes. I sat with my wife down and told her that my son is going to get my last name. That's as far as one has to read to decide you are the asshole. The rest of it just makes it worse. You are the asshole and you're also a liar. You're not looking out for your son's best interests. You're looking out for your own. You're just afraid of your family. Who's more important? Your family or your wife? You are the asshole. Look, Henry VIII, she didn't get to keep anything. She is a grown woman who chose to keep her name instead of bow down to your ego. Get over yourself. She is your equal, your partner and wife, not your subject. Your son is not an extension of that ego. He is a separate human. Your family has no say in any of this. They, and you, need to grow up. You are the asshole. Why is it a privilege for her to get to keep her maiden name? It's her name. And her child will also be her child. Frankly, if she chooses to let you add your last name, you should be grateful, considering what a misogynistic ass you're being. Info. You say you're looking out for your son's best interest in your last line, but you didn't actually mention anything about that in your post. How is this in your son's best interest? The only reasons you list are that you're afraid of your parents, too lazy to have to write a long name on your child's forms, and that it's traditional in the area where you grew up. So, now tell us why it's in your kid's best interest to have only your last name. She disagreed and said no and came up with a compromise, which was that our son gets both our last names, but I declined explaining how awkward and confusing and just complicated that would be. If having 2 last names is the sort of thing that causes an intellectual hurdle for you, you probably shouldn't be having children. Info. Why didn't you take her name? You are the asshole. 2 last names are not complicated in the slightest. Am I the asshole for causing a mass quitting? I was done with the company as they cut our pay to avoid laying off anyone, but then we posted record profits, but they didn't increase our salaries or give us the 10% bonus everyone was promised. 20% of the department already quit, but I was hanging on a bit hoping to ride it out until next year. Then the boss yelled at an intern for asking to go home early and have time off because her mom just called her to tell her cat was dying and to go straight to the vets. She wanted a few days off, and the boss basically told her cats were animals and she wasn't allowed to request time off unless it was a human dying. He was supposed to discuss it in private but decided to just go to a corner of the office where my team overheard him. She was crying and grabbed her stuff and ran out of the office. I sent a company-wide email, which is standard, saying I was quitting and highlighted the interaction between the boss and the intern, though I didn't name names, as the main reason. Then immediately like 10 people emailed me back to ask me who the manager was, and to avoid leaving a trace I told them in person, and within a few days most people knew. I work IT where finding a new job now is really easy and tons of friends would offer me referrals into their companies immediately. I found another job within the 2 weeks and am starting on Monday. There's been over 24 people sending quitting emails, and now the company is shutting down people's emails a few days before they leave so they can't send goodbye emails and link their LinkedIn or phone numbers so current employees can't find them to piggyback to the next company. The boss came to berate me as he was being disciplined and might lose his job. I don't feel sorry for him because he's a jerk, but his family is going to be hard hit because he doesn't have any marketable skills other than PowerPoint. Am I the asshole here? Not the asshole. And why do people think they're morally obligated to protect their employers from the consequences of the employer's own actions? He doesn't have any marketable skills other than PowerPoint. Ouch. Very funny. And #X200B. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Who the fuck is he to tell someone how to feel? Who the fuck is he to tell people whether they get to grieve and for how long? Who the fuck is he to judge the value of a life? I'm sorry for your intern's loss. Not the asshole. You did nothing to get him potentially fired. His own actions did that. Obviously not the asshole. They didn't leave because of you, they left because he's a bad manager and they took a pay cut. Not the asshole sounds like he doesn't like reaping what he sows. Not the asshole. Management forgets that more likely than not people leave their jobs not because of their jobs but because of shitty management. You had every right to answer why you were leaving. His actions are what is causing the company to look at him, not your actions. Find a company that values its employees. Good luck. Not the asshole. He has only himself to blame. You didn't force him to tell an upset employee, and no. Cats, dogs, pets are family. Not just animals. I would be an absolute wreck if my porchy pie was being put down.